Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Parks. I work as a coach for expats and global nomads and other internationals who are living around the world. And I support them by helping them navigate transitions and also helping them to just create the life they imagined that they wanted to live when they imagined either moving abroad or moving back home after living abroad. And today I want to talk about one of the things that gets in the way of living that life, that amazing life that you kind of had imagined and hoped for. And that's the topic of expat guilt. It's something that is so common, is experienced by so many people who are living abroad, have lived abroad. I've seen it in my clients, colleagues, friends. I've experienced it myself. And guilt is not a fun feeling, right? Like it's not something, when you were imagining what life would be like when you moved abroad, you probably weren't like, oh, I hope I get to throw some guilt in there, right? Definitely not. And so let's talk about, why that guilt can come up. I'm going to talk about two different kind of like ways it can manifest or things that can be going on with it, which can really help to distinguish which one is going on for you, and then what we can do depending on how it's showing up. So one way I see guilt showing up is when we realize that our life is out of touch or not aligned with our values. And this can happen either because you've been living abroad for a long time, and so at some point it felt like it was aligned with your values and what was really important to you, and maybe now that's changed, right? We change and we grow and we shift, and maybe it's no longer aligned. Or it can be that after some time living abroad, you're realizing it wasn't really what you expected, right? And so maybe you're discovering it's not actually aligned with your values. It's not helping you to live a really meaningful and a deep life, the purposeful, values-driven life that you'd hope for. So in that situation, that's one way guilt can come up, is when there's that mismatch. And so it might be something like realizing, actually, right now in my life, family is something I really value, something I really want to be able to be closer to my family, to be able to spend quality time with them. It's something that my living abroad, it's just not allowing me to do. So this is a really important type of guilt to listen to, because this is basically like our kind of intuition or our, wiser self, like knocking at the door and saying like, hey, you're not listening to me. It really is a recipe for feeling a lot of regret later on. If you're not listening to that part of you that's really telling you what you want your life to be about, and the fact that your current reality is not matching that thing that deep inside of you want your life to be about. So what do we do here? So, I think one of the first things we have to do is really honestly check in with ourselves and try to assess, will moving home help me to become more aligned with these values? Because you might think like, yeah, actually, being closer to family will really help me to feel more connected with them, to have kind of prioritize that part of my life. And that's not always the case, right? A lot of people find that actually when they move back home, they realize, actually, I spent a lot more quality time with family when I visited them once a year for a week, and it was just like constant connection. Just thinking about that, what would it actually realistically look like being back home? Or, maybe you're going to move back home, but you're not going to actually be moving to a place that's close to family, that's physically nearby them. So just keep kind of noticing those things. Like, is my brain maybe playing some tricks on me, kind of thinking about this fantasy land of what it would be like if I moved back home, and trying to assess what actual decision with the information you have. Because this is like, we don't always know what the next, we will really never know, right? There's a lot of uncertainty when making a big life decision like moving back home. But just kind of assessing, would that help me to get more aligned and in touch with my values? So that's the part that expat guilt can come up when there is a misalignment, when we're not listening to what do we want our life to be about, and our life is not in touch with that want and that desire. Then there's the one that comes up that is driven by shoulds. So shoulds don't have to do with our values. They don't have to do with what our intuition is telling us. They don't have to do with what would help us to live a meaningful life. It's completely driven by what other people want for us and what other people expect from us. It's driven by shoulds. It's driven by what we feel like we should do. And it can also be driven by feelings like that we need to be the ones responsible for other people's happiness and comfort. And so this one, is one that really moving back home isn't going to resolve this type of guilt. It might make you feel a little bit more comfortable in some ways, but it's probably going to pull you out of alignment and out of alignment with your values and create a new sense of guilt for the type of decision you've made. In these situations, again, it's important to check in with your values. In which ways is living abroad aligned with your values? Maybe it helps you to, connect with your values of adventure, creativity, independence, and kind of a multicultural international lifestyle. Might have better quality of life. If all of those things are things that you get through your time living abroad, and those values are important to you and they're things you want to cultivate in your life, then when you think about moving back home, those things get totally out of alignment, then moving back home isn't the answer. The answer is probably things like learning to set boundaries with family or friends back home. So if they say things to you like, I wish you were here, it's so hard not having you here, explicitly saying something to them of like, how that makes you feel, right? And maybe saying things like, setting boundaries around it, like, I don't want to talk about those things. That's going to look different for each person and what is going to make sense there. Especially because sometimes, we can also reframe that as, my family is sharing those things or my friends are sharing those things because they really do care about me. But for a lot of people living abroad, these kind of comments can become excessive and can maybe even lead people to not want to go home and visit because there's just so much pressure put on them of other people feeling like they're not making a good decision with their life. Another piece is learning to deal with those feelings that come up when we know other people are uncomfortable, and just recognizing that we don't need to live our lives and we can't live our lives expecting that we're gonna make everybody else happy. That is a recipe for having a lot of regret and feeling resentment. So just learning to notice when those shoulds are coming up and learning how to let go of the shoulds and the expectations and learning how to cope with that discomfort that might come up, and accepting that we can't always, we really can't ever completely take care of, other people not feeling discomfort, and it's just not our responsibility. So that's kind of what I wanted to share today about expat guilt. That can be a really helpful distinction to make. Sometimes there might be a little bit of crossover too, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments, sending a message. Have you experienced expat guilt? What's helped you to navigate it? If you leave a comment, it can be especially great because then other people know that they're not alone and that this is a completely normal thing to be experiencing if you lived abroad. Because sometimes that can be a big barrier too, is just feeling like you're the only one who's experiencing it. All right, take care. I hope you have a great day wherever in the world you are. Bye-bye.